Quite frankly, there's a lot of dead churches out there. I mean, it looks like a sanctuary. It's more entertainment and shucking and jiving than actually getting in the book, ministering to the flesh and not the soul and not your spirit. You get to know everybody in the church, and my first day there, I got to talk to Dr. Hitchison, and he shook my hand and he prayed over me that very same day, and because I needed to be prayed over. And shout out to Brother Kelton. I think it was the following Sunday, or maybe it was that Sunday. I think it was the following Sunday. Brother Kelton prayed over me, and he prayed so hard and snapped the stronghold that was holding on to me, man. I boo-hoo. I cried. I was like, oh. I boo-hoo. I cried like a baby, man. And we hugged and embraced and exchanged information. And it's just so amazing, man. It's just so amazing. This was the experience that I and my future wife were looking for. Luckily for us, we didn't have to go through too many churches. But my whole point is, right, finding a church home is very difficult because this very reason. Finding a church home, one that fits what you're looking for, but also it's hard to find a church home because there's a lot of disingenuous ministries out here. Not trying to attack anybody, but that's just the truth of the matter, right? You got a lot of false, I don't want to say false prophets because but you got a lot of false religious authority figures like preachers and all this stuff that it's really all about monetary gain and fame rather than actually trying to help people. It's and I think, shout out to the Perrys. I watch them a lot. Amazing couple. But I think Jackie Perry, I do believe that she said, and it was one of those episodes, I think they call it what, neo-prosperity gospel or neo-prosperity ministry. Like it's all about this prosperous stuff, right? You have a lot of these churches that proclaim, I feel so in my soul that somebody in here is going to be a millionaire this year. Hey man, I'm sorry. Look, the Lord's working on me. He knows I'm a little petty. Okay, I'm a little petty. My pettiness does kind of come out a little bit, but that's what it is though. I prophesize. I feel somebody is gonna have a breakthrough through a new car, new home. Oh, business owner, business. You're gonna be entrepreneur. All of you gonna be entrepreneurs this year. It's all of this. It's all this prosperity mumbo jumbo that honestly doesn't do nothing but except feed the flesh. That's really all it does. It feeds the flesh. And you have a lot of churches like that. And, quite frankly, there's a lot of dead churches out there. I mean, it looks like a sanctuary. It has church people, it has people inside of it. It has a preacher. It has all the things. It looks like the legitimate thing. But truthfully, if you really just listen to whatever that preacher is saying, it's this soft. It's soft. It's so soft. It's this softball version of ministering the word. That's even if they even get into the word. Some of them don't even get into the word. It's more entertainment and shucking and jiving than actually getting in the book. Actually getting in the book. And there's a lot of churches out there like that. And it's ministering to the flesh and not the soul and not your spirit. And there's a lot of broken people out here and people who are trying to look to somewhere, because we got God does not reveal himself to us anymore. Like in the Old Testament, he don't reveal himself no more. Okay. He talks to us in riddles. Okay, Jesus isn't walking with us anymore. No, that he came and served his purpose and did what he did needed to do. And you know what I'm saying? We pretty much treated him like crap though, but he did what he came to do and reached the people that he felt he needed to reach and made disciples of all of the disciples that he needed to make of, and we treated him terribly, killed him, and then dipped. He went off and you know, back into heaven. And so with that being said, you know, we have left is representatives. You know, we have representatives of Christ who are supposed to help you, but you have people trying to profit off of you. You have a lot of profiteers in the Christian faith, and it just muddies the waters and it makes it really hard to find something like a church home that's very important for fellowship, you know. So yeah, it's yeah, and the Church of Champions, man, it's amazing. And that's why I think that, man, support your local churches, man. If you're looking for a church home, small churches are the best. You know, no, the preacher is not pulling up in no Maybach or even a Mercedes Benz. He could just be pulling up in a regular Toyota Corolla for all we know. And but he's feeding your spirit and healing you from the long week of trials and tribulations of how whatever form, big or small, you know, the things that conflict your soul through the week, and they speak to your soul, and that's what you need. That's what you need. That's what I needed. That's what my future wife needed. And we didn't get it from a mega church, and most mega churches don't do that, you know, because again, it's more on the entertainment side. Cause worship is great. Worship is great. Oh, the singing is amazing. They got that big old black girl that be getting on that stage at the lighthouse. She be singing. But man, but when it comes to the actual part that really matters, which is the ministry, the scripture, getting into the scripture, is not there. It's probably like 2% of whatever, right? So yeah, man, trying a church home is already difficult. But with that being said, I do want to segue perfectly into the next thing I do want to talk about. And that is, you know, church reform, right? Church reform is in dire need. And not just from, I didn't gather that from my first 2 months of being in the faith again, or diving into faith seriously for once in my life. This is from a collection of my entire lifetime of why I wasn't even in the church in the first place, right? Or why a lot of people are deconstructing. People deconstruct every single freaking day. People are leaving Christianity. Christianity's not popping, bro. It's not popping. It's not popular. And it's a very multi-layered issue that is plaguing a lot of the effectiveness of Christianity and getting people to stay in the faith, right? I mean, I think that we're good at, like, I think Christianity is good at gathering people, but keeping people, retention rate, that's a whole different kind of conversation, right? And I just want to kind of just like start off really like in a way, like I want to talk about like growing up in the church, right? Because again, people grow up in the church, but a lot of people, they don't stay in church. When they grow up, they actually leave the church, and by the grace of God, they find their way back. You know, because once they grow up and go off into the world has claim on them, and the world, which is an antichrist culture, and they do everything to minimize God's importance. You know, people fall prey to that, and they never find their way back to the church. Again, by the grace of God, some do. But growing up in the church, right? Again, I'm not a religious veteran, seasoned, senior, none of that. So I just go off of my stories in my life. I grew up in the church, right? Just like every other kid, who especially in a black household, you grow up in the church. You are forced as a child to go to church on Sundays. But the thing about it is, there's two different kinds of kids that grow up in church. You got the heathen kids, and then you got the good Christian boy and Christian girls, right? Who are on fire for God, right? Me, I was a heathen. I ain't gonna lie. Church was a burden to me, all right? I did not enjoy going to church. I mean, Sunday school was fire because Sunday school, when you're a kid, Sunday school is an amazing thing. It's because it's just like daycare, but like for God, you know, you still get juice, crackers, and you get the color, all these fun little things you get to do in Sunday school as a kid. But, you know, when you get older, when you hit like, basically when you grow up out of Sunday church and you're too old to be with the kids, then you got to be in the sanctuary. Then you got to be in the service with the adults, and that's when it gets that's when the resentment of church really comes into play as a child. Because when you in that teenager realm, preteen, teenager, like 13 to like, and on up to like, 12 to like 18. Yeah, church is a freaking hassle. Again, I was a heathen. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning on a freaking weekend after I just stayed up all night on a Saturday playing video games. Now I got to get up at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning to get dressed to go to church and then sit in church and listen to this man go on and on and on about a God that honestly, I can't even comprehend God. Quite frankly, I didn't care. I was just like, I just couldn't wait to go. I was like, I can't wait till this is over so I can go play my PlayStation 2. I don't care, you know? So, you know, I was a heathen kid, man. You know, I was not on fire for God. I was a kid after the world, you know? I was after the world. I definitely did not believe in God growing up. But I did grow up in the church, though. Went to church all the way up until like probably like my 9th grade year. But then after that, my mom started going to church. I don't know why. I probably need to ask her about that, but stopped going to church. But I did grow up from like, I did have a church foundation, but it just never clicked, right? But then on the other side, you got the good Christian boy and girl, right? You got those who are on fire for God as soon as they learn about God and all this, and they are the ones that go to church camp and they love it, and they're the ones that probably are running their own youth ministry, and they are just Jesus and God all day long, just like how their parents want them to be. But you know what's very similar about the heathen kid that's growing up in the church and the good old Christian boys and girls? They all, for the most part, fall to the same fate. And that is they don't stay in the church, right? Because this is just me. It's my opinion. This is kind of like my own interpretation. And as I'm looking at the world in a different lens and I'm reflecting on my life, right? I feel as though that just because you grow up in the church, that doesn't really mean you have a real relationship with God, right? It's actually not even really your God. I mean, he is our God, but it's your parents' God. It's your grandparents' God that's you're being told to follow and understand. And it's a very big difference in knowing that you need God or being told that you need God. That's a very big difference. And as a kid, you don't know that you need God. You're being told that you need God. So you're doing what you're programmed to do. And I say program, you're being told this over and over again. You know, because you're a kid, you have no real wants or needs. You know, you can't fend for you hardly know really anything about the world. Your understanding of the world as a child, and I say child, from being a small little adolescence to teenager, 18, you don't know nothing about the world. You have an idea of the world. Mostly the ideas of the world comes from your parents or your family, but you don't really know the world. Okay. There's no 17-year-old that knows anything about the world at all. You think you know. But once we all, whether heathen kid or on fire for God kid, you get out, we all go through the same process. You go out into the world after you leave your parents' house, whether you go to college or you're going to workforce, whatever. That's when you really start learning about the world, and you're introduced to more concepts because your parents aren't sheltering you anymore. And now you're an adult. You're a young adult having to make decisions, and you had to decipher because now what's happening, you're deprogramming what your parents told you about the world, but then now you're like, oh wait, no, my mom said this is this, but I'm an adult now and I'm seeing this. It's not what she said it was. Or my dad said this about this, but it's not what it is. It's actually different. And again, because we don't know nothing and we're green and we're thrusted into the world as young adults, in college settings, for the first time, you have to make a decision on your own. Do you want to smoke weed? Do you want to take a drink? You know, go to a party. You didn't really get to party. These temptations of the world start tapping on your flesh. It just, it just starts tapping on the flesh. And your curiosity, because naturally our hearts desire what we want. Our hearts are always going to make us want to do something that we never done before. And those temptations are called, those demons are whispering in your ear like, ooh, so about that premarital sex that you're not supposed to have. You can have it now. Your parents not here no more. You can fall, like the influence of the world hits you very quickly. And shout out to the people that even through when you grow up and you're out into the world, shout out to the people that maintain. But I don't know how many of you are there, but there are a lot more that cannot maintain. And they break their faith. They break a lot because they never done it.